So you want to make more money as a developer and you're not sure whether to start a SaaS, start an agency, do freelancing, get a better job. There's a lot of roads. From what I've seen, there's two main ways, essentially two big roads that you can use to scale your income as a developer, and that's going to be craftsmanship, so basically getting really, really good at development, or business is a totally different route, equally scalable and a possibility. There are pros and cons to both, and I think this is a big kind of general umbrella as a framework to use. But the pros of being a craftsman is basically you're a one-man band that's really, really good at what you do. Now, you could be a contractor, right? So you could basically get really good and just be a contractor who goes from company to company, or you could be an employee and be really, really good at one very specific thing. In any of these positions, you can scale to multi-millions a year for the right employers with the right skill set, but you just have to be absolutely excellent. And so it's something that you get better and better over time, or you run a kind of one-man agency or something like that. So if you've heard of maybe an agency like Design Joy, which is actually basically one guy who runs an agency who does, I don't know, 1 or 2 million a year. He has no employees, nothing else. So that means no headache, no hiring, no payroll, no bills for the most part, right? You basically just pay your own bills. The piece of that path is quite a lot, and it's very, very scalable, kind of multi-millions, but obviously it's a one-man show. And so there's also a certain ceiling to that, which you break if you go down the business route. But I think you can scale both paths really, really quickly. I'm not sure I've seen proof that like one path takes massively longer than the other. I think both of them take time. Both of them take years. It's not something that you do in a few months. And the second path is that of a businessman. It basically means that you eventually kind of start to leave development behind a little bit. So instead of getting really, really good at development, you start hiring developers, you start hiring a team, you start hiring people who are really good at things, and you train them, or you hire people who are better than you, for example. That path is also very, very scalable. Obviously, that's how you build a business, which can be very profitable. You can build an agency, a SaaS. I think SaaS is hard to start without funding. I think a service is usually easier business to make money with. That's a different conversation, and I actually made a separate video about it. Basically, down this business route, if you want to scale a business, most likely you will have to leave the code a little bit at some point. If you don't want to leave the code, you could kind of like stick to CTO as long as you find somebody else to lead and be like CEO. Even as CTO, if you scale properly, eventually you will step away from the code and you'll be architecting and managing and things like that. So basically this people scaling route will move you away from development. Some people don't want to do that. So some people like really, really love the work that they do and they don't want to be dealing with people. That's when the craftsman route really has its advantages. The business route, more people, it means more hiring, sometimes more headache as well, because you have to deal with the politics of just having other people around. But I think it can also be more rewarding. At least for me, really fun to have a team and stuff. Like I enjoy it. And at the end of the day, on a longer time horizon, you can always build something bigger than a one-man show. And that's just fundamentally because if you bring together people and you bring together good people, you can always accomplish more than one man alone. I think there's this saying which is like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I think this stands true. There's no kind of right or wrong. There's fast and long. The business route has potential for more scale. I think it's harder, probably, arguably, because you have now to deal with payroll, like you have to pay people and you have to be responsible for their income. And so that puts a certain burden on you as an employer. But I find this to be worthwhile. I find that I quite enjoy the business side of things, the people side of things. Like I learned that I really found that quite appealing to me. And so I don't mind stepping away a little bit from the kind of day-to-day development. I moved to a more high-level approach now. So like a lot of project management, maybe a little bit of code review, things like that. But I'm not so much in the weeds actually coding the products every single day anymore, which I used to be. And that's fine by me. For some people, they don't want to do that. This framework is just for you to orient yourself if you're trying to make more money. Which path do you want to go down? Like have a think and then try that path. But at least you can have a think about the pros and cons, because I think they're very, very different approaches. Both have their success, but they are very different approaches and you have to do very different things in order to succeed in them. As usual, leave any questions below and I will leave it at that.